Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to COASTER-net Update. We've got some breaking news. The final time out of Doswell, Virginia. Finally, after so many months of speculation, we finally figured out today what exactly is going in at King's Dominion, and indeed it is Twisted Timbers. That's where those two T's come from.
The double T's coming right out and surprising us from the very beginning of this announcement.
From the very beginning, we saw the double T's. We were wondering what it meant. Twisted Timbers it is. So now we actually got a good look at the ride here. So, we were speculating for a very long time as to how big this was going to be, how fast it was going to be. And we kind of drew the comparisons immediately to Storm Chaser. And I think when we look at the numbers here, Danny, it says 109-foot tall barrel roll drop, 3351 feet of track,
three inversions. So we've got the barrel roll drop, we've got the little overbank upside down turn, which back in the Drachenfire days would have been called a cutback. And then we've got a little bit of a 0G roll towards the end of the ride there. So we do have three inversions. And let the record show, Andy, that I think you and I were the first ones to say that the double T's had more meaning to do with than just the iron hook, because someone so cleverly a week or two ago on Twitter said that the double T's with the one flipped upside down had something to do with the Iron Horse track, but we called that one 2 months ago.
Yeah.
More recently, you and I talked about how that has to have something to do with the name, whether there's an actual double T in the name or if it was two words that both began with T. And you and I think, were the only people who really kind of zoned in on that possibility. On my official predictions this morning, I made them this morning before the announcements. I did think that we'd have three inversions. We'd have the barrel roll drop. Obviously, some of that we kind of already thought we knew based on the leak that happened a little bit earlier, towards the end of last week. But three inversions, I think, was the number that we were looking for. And you and I pretty much had this one all the way here. I did see a cost on this, though. Did we happen to get a cost announced on this yet? Or
no? Cedar Fair has not been giving away costs as of late.
Okay.
So it's very difficult to tell how much this one's going to actually come in at the end. What is interesting, though, is I think the 20 airtime hills that they're really espousing and really touting on this ride. And I, drawing those comparisons once again to Storm Chaser, me and you have talked about Storm Chaser a lot. I like the beginning half of Storm Chaser. I like the wing over drop. I like, the hills on the front half of Storm Chaser. It's when it starts doing the stupid stuff at the end that really bothers me. So this ride is much more straightforward, much more hill-based. There are a few overbanks in it, but no overbanks that are out of this world, like strange, because it's a lot like the traditional RMC overbanks are. So I have a little bit more hope that this one, with the extra height, with the little bit of extra speed, and the straightaway, hill kind of concept, I'm excited that this one might be better than Storm Chaser, and hopefully maybe even better than some of the other ones like Wicked Cyclone that I'm not, a huge fan of. Do I think it's going to be up there with Iron Rattler or even the brand new Steel Vengeance that we just heard about today? I don't think so, but I think it's going to be a really nice ride down at King's Dominion.
Yeah, and I'm watching the POV as we talk here again because, just trying to get a really good feel for the ride. I think, as you said, you and I are in agreement that Storm Chaser has a very, very good first half. It's the second half where you and I kind of fall. We really like the first half, and the second half is where you either fall in love with it or you just kind of go, okay, that was kind of nice. And I think the second half is where Storm Chaser kind of maybe underperforms, I think is a good word there, compared to what it does in the first half, whereas Twisted Timbers, at this point, it really looks like it takes the idea of the first half of Storm Chaser, where you've got some nice-sized airtime hills to produce some good sustained airtime and some good quality ejector airtime that is sustained. And it looks like they've kind of tried to follow that through all the way through to the end of the ride a little bit more. Twisted Timbers is going to be a little bit higher, I believe, a little bit faster, a little bit longer. So again, it's going to come down to see how well that speed is held up, and that seems to be the thing here. I've always said I really enjoy Wicked Cyclone. I think it does. I do agree with you that it does slow down at the end. And the saving grace for Wicked Cyclone for me at the end is if you sit in the front seat, because you're really close to the entire structure, you still get the sensation of speed even though you're not going that fast. This is a bit more out in the open, much like Storm Chaser is. There's not a whole lot of this ride that kind of goes back into its own structure. So it's going to have to maintain that speed all the way towards the end of the ride if the sensation of speed is going to be there, because you don't have a lot of the visual effects of going through its own structure. I think there's potential that it could do that, and it could perform all the way through. We've got, one of the outside bank turns there on one of the turnarounds. It looks like you'll probably get some good hang time on that last barrel roll. The last couple overbank turns look like, maybe they'll start to slow down a little bit, but hopefully it's a small portion of the ride, and there are a few hills going back into the station. I'm hopeful that this one will be very good. It's going to be the second closest RMC to me, basically. It's basically the same distance as Wicked Cyclone, but in the opposite direction. So this is going to be one that I'm going to frequent, and it's going to be one that I'll probably get to very, very early on next year. So, I'll have a pretty good idea early on next season what I think. For me at this point, based on what I've seen, I like the name. I really do like the name. I like the logo a lot as well. I think some people are kind of confused with it because we just had Mystic Timbers and we've already got Shivering Timbers, and then we had Soarin' Timbers last year's the flat ride. So it seems like Cedar Fair is digging into that Timbers name just a little bit. But Twisted Timbers, I really like the name. What I find interesting is that they've got a steel coaster that, they're classifying it as this hybrid, and they're using the Timbers name, and they're kind of almost copying the story from Mystic Timbers in a certain way, which I think is interesting. But I'm glad that even though they were able to maybe take some elements of the logo and the name and even the story behind this ride, it sounds like they were able to custom tailor it to King's Dominion and still give them their own ride and not completely copy the identity of a completely different ride from another park. So King's Dominion still has a ride all its own with its own identity.
Well, and I think it's also interesting that a lot of those clues that we've been looking at for the past few weeks, they've kind of weaved them into this story. So it says, no one can exactly say what happened that day back in 1950 when what destroyed half of the harvest in a matter of seconds, what shook the ground, turned over the tractor, shattered the glass, nearly peeled the siding off the warehouse, all without warning, all without a cloud in the sky. So they're trying to tell this story of something happening, of this experience. And I think it's interesting that they tried to weave those into the different clues.
And look at the lead car. What do we got? We got that little vehicle we saw about a month ago in one of the teasers. That's the exact car we're seeing there. So I mean,
absolutely,
we're definitely seeing all the little clues that we got over many weeks and really a couple months. We've seen all the clues kind of come together and have played some little part in this ride. We've got the 20 airtime hills, which is better than the 4 that I guess, some people refer to the 4 airtime moments on the previous version of Hurler. You've got 3 inversions, which is better than none, which is the previous number. And I believe, what do we got on the height here? The height is 109 feet tall. That's the barrel roll drop. So I'm guessing the height might be the 28 feet. Increase from the original Hurler. So 20 airtime hills, 54 miles per hour. We'll again, it'll really come down to whether or not that's maintained well enough throughout the entire ride. But I am hopefully optimistic that this ride will deliver. And I think it's really going to be a nice addition. King's Dominion still has 3 wooden coasters. They've got Rebel Yell, Grizzly, and Ghoster coaster. So it's not, they don't have an updated new wood coaster. So as far as losing a wood coaster to get an RMC like this, I absolutely think it's going to be worth the investment, whatever that number ends up being. And I am very, very pleased that King's Dominion will be getting what seems to be a great addition to their to their park. And I think it's probably going to definitely be in contention to be one of the top 2 or 3 coasters, if not maybe a little better at that park. Right now, you've got I-305, you've got Volcano, you've got Dominator. After that, you can kind of debate where you go after that, but I think most people would agree those are the top 3 there. I think this one will have a chance to give all 3 of those a run for its money in terms of being in the top couple coasters in that park. So I'm excited to see what people think come March or April or whenever this thing opens. It should be a very good ride.
Absolutely. So thank you for joining us along this entire road at King's Dominion. We've had a great time trying to figure out these clues.
Yes, we have.
So it's been a really fun time. So thank you for coming along the entire ride for us. So as always, I'm Andrew Barczyk from Chicago, Illinois.
And Danny Miller from Binghamton, New York.
And as always, ride on, Ride Warriors.
See you guys.